So let me walk you through the project budgeting template. And this is what you see when you open it, and there are different tabs at the bottom. Let's have a look at each of those one by one. The first tab, how to use this template. Well, here I'm giving a few hints on how to properly use the Excel file. Then the next one, reporting. This is where the Excel file automatically summarizes the values which you have entered in the other tabs. And it also generates a chart. You can't see anything right now here because all the costs are at 0, so nothing to see here. You can change this later on. You can just make copies or make it more detailed or change the year. That's up to you. Now, the first real and important tab is the labor effort tab. So in this tab, you enter the names of your team members, external, internal, doesn't matter, and the estimated effort in days. So it's also written here at the top, labor effort in days. And the timeline you can see here at the top. Currently I've included here 2 years, 2018 and 2019, with the months, and for each month you see a different column for plan and actual. So when you're starting a project, you obviously have to fill the plan column, and as you move along, you track the actual effort of your team and you enter the values here in days. Now, to make the template easy to use and to help you, make sure you don't change anything which you shouldn't change, I have used some color coding. So in general, whenever you see a green line here at the top, it means that you should edit, and you are allowed to edit the cells in the bottom which come below. So what else can you see here? We have a totals column where it adds up the days. As you scroll to the right, you see here's another 2 columns where the file adds up the plan and actual values for each year. So 2018, and there's another one as you scroll further to the right for 2019. But you can just change the year to whatever year currently is. So that's where you start. Enter the labor effort in days. Now the next tab is the labor cost tab, and this is purely a calculation sheet. You should not change anything in here. Particularly, don't change the formulae which are shown here at the top. If you make a mistake here and if you delete something, for example, the whole file won't work. So the numbers will not be correct. So don't change anything. And to make sure you don't make a mistake, you see here I used a red line color coding at the top. So red means don't edit the cells which come below. Of course, you can copy, extend the file to add more rows if you have a bigger team. This is possible, but always copy. And these 2 tabs, so the labor effort and the labor cost sheet, they are basically one-on-one copy. They are identical except for the formulae. So the same name, same number of rows, same column structure. It may sound difficult or complicated for now, but I will show you an example later on and you'll see it's very easy. Next tab is the travel cost. Well, here you enter the travel cost. So accommodation, hotel fees, travel, train ticket, airplane ticket, whatever you have. And here it's entered in dollar basis to always make sure that you're using the right unit of measure here. And the timeline is also identical as you've seen in the other sheets. There's a column with a red top bar. It's the rate. So a benefit of this template which I'm using also in my projects, it's that you can make very easily calculations using predefined rates. So let's say you have a flight from Chicago to New York, and it's always, let's say, $250. You can predefine this rate, and the file will automatically calculate the total travel cost for your entire team. Then we have another tab, Investments. Here is where we enter depreciation amounts. So when you're part of your project, you're buying assets like expensive machinery, for example, or hardware or software, whatever. It's usually depreciated over a certain time span, like 4 years, instead of being booked in the accounts at the time of purchase. So if this is not relevant for you, if your project is not concerned with any expensive investment goods, then you can just ignore this tab. Then we have another tab called Other Cost. So anything else which doesn't fit the other labels like labor or travel or investment, you can enter here. So especially the smaller cost items like, I don't know, some fees for insurance or things like that you can include here. Printing fees, don't know. The last tab is the Rates tab. So here you can define, or you must define, the rate for the labor. So if you have someone from accounting, what's the cost per day? And these values you should get from either your internal accounting department or from HR. But this is for internal, this is like a fictitious rate. For external, you get a quote from a service provider, how much he charges per day, and you define this value in the rates tab. Same for the travel cost columns here. So here you can define standard rates for a flight ticket, for the night in a hotel, and so on. And you can add more cost types here, so this is really flexible. Now, let's use the project budgeting template with a real example. And we have a project here, it's called the Happy Customer IT project, and this is our team. We have 4 people. 4 are internal: Amy Fisher from accounting, John Smith from sales, and Rebecca Clark from software development. In addition, we have one guy, Tom Henderson, who works for a company called Supersoft, and we've marked him here as external. So we are again in our project budgeting template, and let's start by entering the effort for our team members. So you go to the tab Labor Effort, and we start by entering the names. So we have first Amy Fisher, she's from accounting, John Smith from sales, and Rebecca Clark from software development. Let's make this a little bit bigger so that you can see what I'm doing here. And then we have another guy, external guy, he's Tom Henderson. And I'm using here for the department, I'm writing here external / Supersoft. I want to know easily that this is an external team member, so this is why I'm adding here this prefix. And you have to be careful with how you write the department names, and I'll show you why. So, but first, let's enter here the effort. So we have to enter days here, not hours or dollars, but only days. So let's say Amy is working in January for 3 days. Let's add some sample values. It doesn't matter here really what we use. Now Rebecca, and let's say Tom is a bit busier here in March, so he has to work for 10 days. That's what we are planning. Let's not go any further. Let's keep it simple. Now, if you look at the reporting sheet, you see there's still no cost shown here. And the reason why is because so far we have only added the effort, but we have not maintained the other sheets or the other tabs which are important here. Labor cost, you see this is also still 0. No cost here. And what you have to do next is you have to maintain the rates for the cost for the people who are in your team. So we have first Amy Fisher, she's from accounting. So all I have to do here is enter accounting here. And let's say the rate is $900. Then we have John Smith, he's from sales. So sales, they are not as expensive. Let's say here 700. And then we have Rebecca Clark from software development. So I have to use here the exact department code that I've used also in the labor effort sheet, which is software development. So no, I'm not using any blanks in between or anything else. It must be exactly the same. Otherwise, the Excel won't be able to link both values and automatically calculate the cost. Let's also make this a bit bigger for you. Software developers are usually quite expensive. So let's say the daily rate is like $1,100. Now let's also assume that we have to do a little bit of travel in the project. So Rebecca, our software developer, she's going to a training. So it's a flight. She is gonna take the plane from Chicago to Seattle. So we try to come up with a nice short code here. Let's say flight Chicago, Seattle. It doesn't really matter whether you use large caps or small caps. This is really just a code for making the calculation work. So the flight Chicago, Seattle, I mean, this is a return flight. So let's say it's $300. Then we have Rebecca has to stay in a hotel, and the hotel in Seattle is $150 per night. This is how it works. Yeah, we'll keep it simple for now. So now we have to check if the calculation has already worked now for the labor. So let's go to labor cost. You see, I can see here actual dollar amounts. So Amy Fisher, she's working in January for 3 days, and her daily rate is $900. 900 times 3 is $2,700. So that's why this number is correct. And the others are also calculated in the same way. By the way, I absolutely recommend you to check these values at the end once you have entered all the cost items in the budgeting template. There may be a mistake, or maybe you have done a typo, whatever. You have to check if the numbers actually add up in every tab where they are included. So this is really nice because now I can see here the cost per month, total cost per month. I can scroll further to the right to see the totals for the year. So in total we have a labor cost of $29,400. In this tab, the labor cost, you must not change anything. So this is using formulae to do all the calculation. That's why I have also this red line, again, indicator here to make sure you know this is not something where you edit. What you can do is, of course, if you need more rows here. So this is like limited to, I don't know, 15 rows. So if you have more than 15 team members, you have to add more rows. And the best way, I mean, how you should do this is not just insert a row, but really to copy one of the existing ones so that all the formulae are also copied to the new rows. This is very important. So we forgot Tom so far. So his his department shortcode is this one, external Supersoft. So I'm going back to the rates tab. I paste here the shortcode. So Tom is really expensive. He's an external resource. So let's say it's 1,800 per day. And now if you go back to the labor cost tab, you should see here his 1 day is already included here. And in March he's working for 10 days. So we have 1,800, which is the daily rate, plus times 10 days is $18,000. Very easy, you see. So now we make sure we save. Travel cost. Let's have a look at travel cost. So here we haven't included anything. And you see the top bar is green. So that means you have to maintain it actually. So what we write here, as I said, we want to send our team member Rebecca to a software development training in Seattle. So you just enter free text here. Software development and training, for Rebecca, in brackets Seattle, so that we know later on what it's about. The type, the column B, this we take here from the rates tab. So it must be identical. So we use here the flight Chicago, Seattle. Oops. No, I want to put it in here. Sorry, I was in the wrong column. Make sure you're always in the right column. So now you see I entered here this short code and it immediately pulled out the rate for the flight from the rates tab. So and this is now here for the next columns you have to manually enter the formula. So let's say the training for Rebecca is in January. So she's going there once. So it's really just, I mean, you can write one time the 300 here. So if she had like 3 trips to Seattle, you would enter here 3 times C5 and it would give you the total flight cost. So for now it's really just the flight cost. I should be more specific. Flight Seattle. Then we have the hotel in Seattle. So what did we use here as an abbreviation? Hotel Seattle. bam, you see the hotel rate, daily rate is immediately coming up. Now let's assume Rebecca stays in Seattle for 5 nights. So what you would enter here is a formula equals sign to show Excel that you want to enter a formula, then the rate per night and the number of nights Rebecca is supposed to stay, so times 5. She's staying for 5 nights. So this is the travel cost. This is how you enter the travel cost. And you see again, Excel summarizes, or template summarizes the cost neatly, so you can just see the total at the bottom. And in the same way, if you scroll further to the right, you see that we have planned a total cost of $10.50 in the year of 2018. Yeah. Now, maybe you have some additional cost items. Let's say you have to consult an attorney for some matter as part of your project. This wouldn't fit anywhere in the labor category because it's, I don't know, paid as a flat fee, whatever. I just want to separate it from the other cost categories. So I'm going here to the other costs tab. Let's make this bigger. And again, here is the green bar at the top, which means you must enter values here. So I just write in free text, attorney consultation on, I don't know, invoice form, whatever. Just something that you know what it's about. And here you enter the dollar amounts. So let's say this is in March, you're going to see the attorney, and then it takes a while until you get the invoice. So this will be only in April when the attorney fees are being billed. And let's say this is $6,000. Again, it's summarized here. If you had any other items, Excel would sum up the values here. And also in the total section on the right side, you see the total yearly other cost. So now if we go to the reporting sheet, we see things have changed. The actual costs are still 0 because we are just starting out. We have not generated any cost, but our planned costs are now shown. So the labor cost, we have $51,000. We have travel cost of around $1,000. We have so far not included any depreciation amounts, no investment cost, and we have the attorney fee, which amounts to $6,000, which is included here under other costs. So in total, $58,050. Now again, please make sure that once you have entered all the efforts and all the cost items, make sure that you add and check the values, whether the total here is really the sum of the labor cost plus travel cost plus investment cost plus other cost. Take a sheet, take a calculator, and double check these values, because what you don't want to have is to take this value and go into your project with this amount, and then as you move on you recognize that you've actually made some Excel mistake and there are $10,000 missing, so your project is actually costing more than what you showed at the beginning. So this is not something you want. Now let's say we are 2 months into the project and we have already incurred some actual cost. So I do in my projects, I track the cost on a monthly basis. So at the end of every month, I would sit down and see what was the actual labor cost, the actual travel cost, etc. And then I enter the values here. So what I would do at the end of January, I would go to Amy, to John, to Rebecca, and to Tom, and I would ask them, how many hours did you work for this on this project? And I would get the numbers, and I would enter it here in the actuals column. Very simple. So let's say Amy, here we were quite on the spot, so it's also 3 days as we estimated. For John, he had to do some more work, so more than expected, so it was like 3 days. Rebecca, for her, we also were slightly above. Let's say we are at 3.5 days. Sorry, just the wrong format. And for Tom, we are on the spot, 1 day as planned. So now you can scroll down and you see we were a bit over budget for this month of January, which is not a problem. If in some months you are above budget and some months you are below budget, so it should even out ideally. February, there we are really more or less on the spot, except for Tom having to work a bit more. And for March, we were below our plan. So Amy was only working for 4 days, John works for 3 days, and Rebecca for 5 days. And Tom could finish his work also in less than 10 days. So this is how you track the actual cost. And you can see the numbers now, first of all, at the bottom. So if you're doing a month by month comparison, you could pull out the numbers here. You can compare plan and actual very easily. And also, if you scroll to the right, if you are interested in the yearly totals, let's say you're at the end of the year, so you could compare here your plan and actuals for the year 2018 in this case. So we are below budget by 2 days. How does this look in cost? Well, we can have either a look in the labor cost sheet or in the reporting tab. So now you see that there are actual values included here, and these are pulled automatically by the template. So these are not entered manually. That's why this red line again. Don't enter anything here in the columns with a red line on top. So again, I could see here the cost in dollar amounts. Now you can also see the cost here in the reporting tab. So for the labor, we are under budget, which is good. It's always what we want, and you see this also depicted in this graph, with the orange bar being the actual cost and the blue one being the planned cost. Now we haven't entered the actuals for travel, so let's do this, and also for the attorney fee. Travel cost. So as we are estimating these fees, there's usually always a variation unless you buy the tickets right at the start of your project. So let's say the flight was more expensive because we booked late. So here you have to manually again enter the values. So for the hotel fees, the rate was the same. Let's just assume that. So it was 150 times 5 is $750 for 5 nights in Seattle. Nice city. Now the attorney fee, which it was really the same, maybe some some extra charges for additional copies or whatever. But in total, it was not a surprise. Now go back to the reporting sheet, and you have now your complete plan and actuals side by side. Very easy, as you can see.